Hi, today I'm going to unbox my Anycubic Photon Mono X. Hi, welcome to Gray Lightning, my video blog about making things and playing games. And today is an exciting day because I get to unbox my brand new large format resin printer. This is an Anycubic Photon Mono X. I think the X means it's the larger format, bigger build volume, but also the mono means it's a monochrome screen, and monochrome screens print faster. So this is both increase in size in terms of what I can make and faster printing, and actually higher resolution as well. So I've got a lot of upgrades going on in this box. I bought this from Amazon. It's got a warning on the top that says it's heavy, over 15 kilos. It is quite heavy. It clearly says this way up on the box, but Amazon packed it in a box on its side, and that box had an this way up that would have had them transporting this the whole way on its side. I'm not too worried about it because they're usually packed pretty well, so I think it's going to be fine, but we're going to find out together. So I'm going to start by getting it out of the box, which I will do off camera because it's going to be extremely difficult for me to do it. Hi, so that wasn't quite as hard as I expected it to be. I put my adjustable desk down as far as it would go, and after taking the stuff out of the top, this is actually strong enough that I could lift it up and just slide it sideways and get it onto the table and raise the table back up. So that's it. Now we're ready to take a look. This is bigger, and you know it's going to be bigger because the build volume is bigger, but we're really just talking inches in each direction. So, you know, I'm hoping it's not that much bigger because I want to put it back on the same table where my Creality printer is. So let's take off the protective cover. And what do we have in the top here? So, the build plate. This is huge. I've already got a print ready to go on this, and I'll talk about that a little bit later, but I was able to take one of my favorite models and size it up by 2.5 times, and it easily fit on this machine. So, that's going to be exciting. And here's the power supply. The whopping large resin vat with its FEP installed. And you know, I don't have any spare FEPs for this. I haven't bought any yet. Hopefully they're going to provide one for me, because if I get a failed print right out of the chute, I'm going to need to replace this. Hopefully that won't happen. Here is some equipment to go with it. We've got the filters. We've got the this tool for removing things from the bed. I have I believe a better tool than this, but this looks quite nice. It's angled. It's got a very beveled edge on it. So this is quite a nice removal tool. This has got the mask in it, the filters for filtering the resin. If you have to dump it out of the vat and change it, it gets the little bits of cured resin out of the resin you're pouring back into the bottle. This is for stirring inside the resin vat. These are the tools you need for adjusting the bed and changing the FEP film. These are the screws that hold the resin vat in place. Here is my USB stick. After sale service card. some gloves. Of course, already being into resin printing, I have lots of gloves and masks and all that kind of stuff, but if you're just starting out, it's really important that they have everything in one place so that you can get a print right away. And it looks like some extra screws or little bolts for probably the changing the FEP, but maybe not. I'll find out more about this in a bit when I look at the manual. Most of these things I recognize, but some of them are a little bit different from what I'm used to. So, all right, what's inside here? Let's see if anything else is inside here. Instructions. Yikes, that's all in English. The first side was all in Chinese. Is there anything in this piece? No. That's just the cover. Keeping that unscratched. All right. Very well packed. I'm hoping everything works. Wow. That is awesome. That is a lot bigger than what I'm used to. You always have to check these to make sure they haven't hidden things in it, because that happened to my first printer. It took me a while to find everything. So this is awesome. My goodness. This is the size of that 4K mono screen. And so now I'm going to stop. I'm going to read my manual, and I'm going to move it into a place where I can actually work with it. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do the next step, which is leveling the build plate here where the lighting is good, and just talk about what I see here. So I've plugged it in and I've turned it on. The power plug goes in over here, and the on-off switch is on this side as well. The USB drive goes in this side. So all the action is over here on that. This is where an antenna is going to go that allows me to run things from my phone. So that'll go in a bit. But let's talk about leveling. Before I do that, I do want to point out that the screen here is already sealed. Now on my Creality, one of my videos was about using Captain Tape to seal the edges of the screen so that in case I had a resin leak, it wouldn't go down in and destroy the screen. They've already done it on this one, so that's really great. And so we're just going to follow the instructions for leveling the build plate. The first thing is I'm going to peel off this so I can see. And it says, plug in the power, turn on the power switch, raise the Z-axis by 10 millimeters. So I'm going to press, according to this, tools, and then move Z, and then I'm going to say up 10 millimeters. Okay. Now, you had two of these Allen wrench things in the package. The small one is for changing the FEP. The larger one here is what fits these bolts in the build plate. I've loosened the 4 of them on the sides here, and now I'm supposed to install it. And they provide a piece of paper. This says this paper can be used for leveling, and you put that down to protect your screen. So then I'm going to put this on. It's just barely up here. Screw it in place. Okay. Then click Home on the touch screen and it goes in place. Finger press on top of the platform gently and tighten the 4 screws to secure the platform. So, lastly, click Z0 and confirm the 0 position. And then you hit enter. Obviously, you would have this facing you when you did it, so you could actually read the screen. Let's see what it says. 0 setup succeeded. Raise platform now, enter. It's actually very clear and easy to read when it's kind of facing towards you, so that's good. All right. So this is supposed to be a place that's convenient to enter the resin vat. You can take out the paper. Leveling is finished. 7, click detection on the screen. Select an image and the testing time, then click next on the screen. The curing screen should display a complete image. Well, I don't know what that means. Let's do detection. Let's put the exposure time up more. Next. Okay, well, what it did there looked a lot like the picture here, and so I think it's doing what it's supposed to do. Now it says install the resin vat. So here is the resin vat. Couple interesting things about it is it has a spot in the corner here that's designed for pouring resin out, so that's very nice. That's a thoughtful touch. It's got this max resin mark on the back here, and of course you put it in so that that is facing you. And actually, I believe there is a, yes, there is a protective film there. You always have to watch out for these protective films. They pop up in places and you need to remove them. So now this should be going in like this. And I have these 2 screws. So max, the word is in the back facing out so you can see it when you're pouring resin in. Okay. I believe setup is complete. I am going to install this antenna in the back. Finger tight. That's it. They say do not remove the sticker in the back. This is what tells it when whether the lid's on or off. There's a setting that you can, that's off by default, but that you can turn on that says if this is removed, it should stop printing. And but I think that's set off by default. So if you want that on, you're going to need to set that on. So I'm going to put the lid on. Now is when I'll move it back to my workroom and do a test print. So clearly, given the size of this build plate, this mechanism for holding it steady, which is very important, is much bigger and sturdier than on my Creality. This other Anycubic next to me is my wash and cure machine. All right, here goes. Print. I've got one thing on here that I did on Chai2box, the new beta that supports this machine. Here we go. You can see why the max fill line is so important, because when that big bed submerges itself in the resin, the level of the resin in the vat really goes up dramatically. So now it's doing the first layer. My memory is that the first layer is of 40 seconds for the first 10 layers or whatever the base layers are. Then it drops to 1.5 seconds for all the other layers. That compares to 9 seconds for my Creality. So it's that much faster, but because I'm building bigger, it's gonna be a lot more layers. So the net of the whole thing is that this first print is going to take about 4.5 hours. And theoretically, I should be able to watch it on my phone if I can get that phone connection working. Right now I'm just going with the USB and the touch screen. So we'll let it go and see what happens. In about 5 hours, I was able to remove my first print from my new printer. I always try to get all the resin I can off the build plate before I put it in my cleaning solution, because I don't want all of that resin to go into my IPA. I am using standard resin, so I'm using alcohol for my cleaning solution. And it comes off of the build plate very easily using my long special removal tool. And the supports come off surprisingly easily as well. I mean, I can really just break everything off without much of a problem. That's nice, but it makes me a little concerned. I'm using white resin because that's the only color that I had a large volume of for this large print. Otherwise, I would have used gray because I'm going to be comparing it to a prior model that I've done in gray resin. And on first inspection, this looks really nice. And I think it's clean enough to do the final cure, so I put it into my Anycubic wash and cure machine. I do 6 seconds on one side, turn it over, and do 6 seconds on the other side. Now I can compare it to the one I printed on my Creality. And now that I'm looking at the two of them side by side, it seems to me that I don't have the level of detail in the new model that I had in the old model. But to get an apples to apples comparison, I decided to order some gray Elegoo resin, the same resin the original model was done in. The white resin is Anycubic. And using the exact same model, it failed. Now, if you haven't suffered through a failed print, this is what it looks like. And when you look at it closely, you can see that right in the middle of printing, these layers did not stick together. And unfortunately, that means the part that didn't stick is stuck to your FEP film in the bottom of your vat. Using the plastic spatula and some alcohol and a lot of patience, I was able to remove this without damaging the FEP. I decided that the Elegoo resin needed to cure longer than the 1.5 seconds that are the defaults in Chai2box, so I increased that to 3 seconds. I also leaned the model back a little further so there were fewer layers to compensate for the increased cure time. This seemed to fix the failed print. It made it through successfully. It does have more detail than the white version. The detail level is similar to what I got from the Creality. But on close inspection, I see that now I have a new problem. So here it is compared to the white. You can see the tip of the spear is pointier. The tips of the hair are pointier, but on the back here, you can see there's a chunk missing in this wing. And in fact, when you look closely at the front, you can see there's delaminating going on in some of the layers in the wings and in the head, all happening at about the same level. Now, there are about 4 different reasons why this could be happening, and it's going to require a debugging process. I'll be covering that process in my next video, and I'll also show how to get the Wi-Fi working, which I was able to do. If you're interested in that or any of my many projects for gaming and gamers, please subscribe to my channel.